Right now, at this very moment while you're watching this, thousands of hair follicles on your scalp are making a life or death decision. And what most women over 50 don't realize is that one simple ingredient you can add to your morning coffee might be the difference between watching helplessly as your hair thins or finally seeing that thickness come back. Every single morning you look in the mirror and notice that widening part line, that scalp showing through a little more. Those handfuls of hair in your brush that break your heart just a tiny bit more each day. And if you're like most American women dealing with this, you've probably tried expensive treatments that didn't work. Listened to well-meaning friends who said it's just your age and you need to accept it. And maybe even avoided social situations because you don't feel like yourself anymore without that confidence your hair used to give you. But here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. This isn't about vanity. This is about feeling like the woman you know yourself to be when you look in the mirror. And what I'm about to share with you has real scientific backing that most doctors know about, but somehow never quite get around to explaining in a way that actually helps you take action today. Before we dive into this, do me a favor and hit that like button right now and drop a comment telling me your age and where you're watching from, because I want to build a community of women who refuse to just accept that losing our hair is something we have to live with. And trust me, the solution I'm about to reveal is simpler than you ever imagined, but there's a specific way you need to do it that makes all the difference between seeing results or wasting your time. Now I know what you're thinking right now. You've heard about coffee and hair before. Maybe you've even seen those videos telling you to rinse your hair with leftover coffee grounds. But stay with me here, because what I'm about to share is completely different, and it's based on how caffeine actually works at the cellular level inside your hair follicles, which is something most people get completely wrong. The truth is that drinking coffee alone won't directly fix your hair loss, but when you add one specific ingredient to your coffee in the right amount at the right time of day, something remarkable happens in your body that addresses the root cause of why women over 50 start losing hair in the first place. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's happening beneath your scalp and what you can do about it starting tomorrow morning. Let me tell you about something that happens to every woman after menopause that hardly anyone talks about openly. When your estrogen levels start dropping, and this happens gradually for most women starting in their late 40s and accelerating through their 50s, that protective hormone that used to shield your hair follicles starts disappearing like a security guard abandoning their post. What this really means is that another hormone in your body, one that's always been there but was kept in check, suddenly gets free rein to attack your hair follicles. And this hormone is called DHT. Think of it as the villain in your hair loss story. DHT is like a bully that literally shrinks your hair follicles over time, making each new hair that grows back thinner and weaker than the one before, until eventually that follicle just gives up entirely and stops producing hair altogether. This is why you notice your ponytail getting thinner, why you can see more scalp when you look down, why that part line keeps getting wider no matter what shampoo you try. I've talked to women who describe this experience as watching themselves disappear bit by bit. One woman told me she stopped taking photos with her grandchildren because she hated how her scalp showed through in every picture. Another shared how she'd rearrange her hair obsessively 20 times a day, trying to cover the thin spots. And when I hear these stories, my heart breaks, because I know that feeling of not recognizing the woman in the mirror, that sense that you're losing not just hair, but part of your identity and confidence along with it. But here's where things get really interesting, and This is where coffee comes into the picture in a way that might actually shock you. Coming in at number 5, we need to talk about what caffeine does to your hair follicles at the cellular level. And this isn't some trendy theory. This is based on actual laboratory studies that showed something remarkable. When researchers exposed hair follicles to caffeine, those follicles stayed in their growth phase significantly longer than follicles that didn't get caffeine. We're talking about extending the time your hair actually grows before it enters that resting phase where it eventually falls out. Think of your hair growth like a garden, where each plant has a growing season. Caffeine essentially extends that growing season, giving each hair more time to grow longer and thicker before it decides to take a break. The caffeine works by blocking that DHT hormone I mentioned earlier. It literally gets in the way and prevents DHT from shrinking your hair follicles, like putting up a shield that protects your follicles from attack. But, and this is crucial, just drinking coffee doesn't deliver enough caffeine directly to your scalp to make this happen, because most of that caffeine gets used up by your body for energy and brain function long before it ever reaches your hair follicles in any meaningful concentration. Medical research has shown that topical application of caffeine, meaning putting it directly on your scalp, is far more effective than drinking it for hair growth purposes. But here's the twist that changes everything when you combine drinking coffee with adding a specific ingredient that helps your body utilize nutrients more effectively and addresses the underlying hormonal issues. You create a powerful 1-2 punch that attacks hair loss from multiple angles simultaneously. Now we're at number 4, and this is where things start getting really practical. The ingredient I'm talking about adding to your coffee is collagen, specifically collagen peptides, and before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another supplement fad, let me explain exactly why this matters specifically for women over 50 dealing with hair loss. Your hair is made primarily of a protein called keratin, and your body needs specific amino acids. Think of them as building blocks to manufacture that keratin effectively. As you age, your body's natural collagen production drops dramatically. We're talking about losing 1 to 2% of your collagen every single year after age 20. And by the time you're in your 50s, you've lost a massive amount of the collagen that your body needs, not just for your skin and joints, but critically for building strong, healthy hair. Collagen peptides contain those exact amino acids your body needs, especially proline, glycine, and hydroxyproline, which are like the special ingredients in a recipe that you absolutely can't leave out if you want the final dish to turn out right. When you consume these amino acids regularly, your body has the raw materials it needs to build keratin for your hair. But even more importantly, collagen helps improve blood circulation to your scalp. Think of it like opening up the highways that deliver nutrients and oxygen to your hair follicles so they can function properly. I've heard from women who added collagen to their morning coffee and noticed within about 3 to 4 months that their hair felt stronger, that they had less hair coming out in the shower, that baby hairs started appearing along their hairline where they hadn't seen new growth in years. One woman in her late 50s told me she'd almost given up hope entirely. She'd tried expensive serums and vitamins that did nothing. But after adding collagen peptides to her coffee every morning and sticking with it consistently for about 5 months, her hairdresser asked her what she was doing differently because the texture of her hair had completely changed. It was thicker, stronger, and she had all these new little hairs growing in. But as helpful as this is, the next one does something even more powerful for addressing the root hormonal cause of your hair loss. And most doctors won't even mention this option because they default to pharmaceutical solutions or tell you there's nothing to be done. we've arrived at number 3, and this is where we need to talk about something that affects your entire body, but shows up most noticeably in your hair, and that's your stress hormone cortisol. Here's what most women don't realize: chronic stress, which, let's be honest, most of us are dealing with constantly, causes your cortisol levels to stay elevated day after day, month after month. High cortisol does something devastating to your hair follicles. It forces them into that resting phase I mentioned earlier, way too early. So instead of your hair growing for several years like it should, stressed out hair follicles might only grow for a year or even less before they decide they're done, and that hair falls out. Think of cortisol like a fire alarm constantly going off in your body. And when your body thinks there's an emergency, it diverts all resources away from non-essential functions like growing thick, beautiful hair, because your body figures survival is more important than vanity right now. The connection between stress and hair loss is so powerful that women often notice dramatic shedding 2 to 3 months after a particularly stressful event. Maybe you lost a loved one, went through a divorce, dealt with a serious illness, or just endured months of overwhelming responsibility caring for aging parents or dealing with work pressures, and then suddenly 3 months later, you're pulling out handfuls of hair and you can't figure out why until you make that connection to what you went through earlier. This type of hair loss is called telogen effluvium, which basically means your hair got stressed out and decided to abandon ship all at once. And while it usually grows back eventually, for women over 50 who already have hormonal hair thinning happening, this stress-related shedding can feel absolutely devastating because you're already vulnerable. Now here's where coffee comes back into the story in an unexpected way, and this might actually surprise you. While too much caffeine can actually increase cortisol levels and make stress worse, having a moderate amount of coffee, we're talking about 1 to 2 cups in the morning, can actually help stabilize your energy levels throughout the day and prevent those blood sugar crashes that spike cortisol. But more importantly, when you combine that coffee with collagen, which contains glycine, an amino acid that has calming properties and helps regulate your stress response, you're creating a morning ritual that supports both your hair growth and your body's ability to manage stress more effectively. Several women have shared with me that this simple morning routine of coffee with collagen became their moment of self-care, that 5 minutes to themselves before the chaos of the day began, and that mental shift of prioritizing their own health actually helped reduce their overall stress levels, which in turn helped their hair stop falling out so aggressively. However, there's one more thing you absolutely need to know about why adding collagen to your coffee, specifically in the morning, works so much better than taking it any other time of day. And this ties into how your body actually processes and uses these nutrients. But before I reveal that, number 2 is going to explain the mechanism that makes this whole approach actually work. And this is the part that most doctors know, but never quite explain in a way that helps you understand what's really happening. Coming in at number 2, and this is where things get really serious because we're talking about the actual mechanism that makes this coffee and collagen combination effective, instead of just another thing you waste money on that doesn't work. Your hair follicles are like tiny factories, and those factories need 3 critical things to function properly. They need building materials, which is where the amino acids from collagen come in. They need protection from attack, which is where caffeine-blocking DHT comes in. And they need proper blood flow to deliver all these resources. And this is where everything comes together in a way that's more powerful than any single approach alone. When you drink coffee in the morning, the caffeine causes vasodilation, which is just a fancy way of saying it opens up your blood vessels and increases blood flow throughout your body, including to your scalp. This improved circulation means that whatever nutrients you consume along with that coffee get delivered more effectively to your hair follicles. So when you add collagen peptides to your morning coffee, you're not just giving your body the building blocks it needs. You're also ensuring those building blocks actually get transported to the hair follicles that need them. It's like hiring both a construction crew and making sure the delivery trucks can actually reach the construction site. This is why taking collagen with your morning coffee is more effective than taking it at random times throughout the day. You're leveraging the caffeine's ability to enhance nutrient delivery right when those nutrients enter your system. But here's what makes this especially important for women over 50. Your circulation naturally decreases as you age. Think of your blood vessels becoming like old pipes that don't flow as freely as they used to, and your hair follicles are located far from your heart at the very top of your head, which means they're often the first place to experience reduced blood flow and nutrient delivery. Many American women dealing with hair loss don't realize that their follicles aren't necessarily dying. They're often just starving, literally not getting enough oxygen and nutrients to function properly, and they go dormant like a plant in winter. The combination of improved circulation from caffeine plus the building block nutrients from collagen can literally wake up dormant follicles and convince them to start producing hair again. Though I need to be completely honest with you, this doesn't happen overnight. You're looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 months before you notice significant changes, because hair growth is slow, but when women stick with it consistently, the results can be remarkable. I've spoken with women who describe seeing baby hairs, those little fuzzy new hairs sprouting along their hairline and part line, after about 4 months of this daily routine. And that first moment of noticing those baby hairs brings tears of hope after months or even years of watching their hair thin. One woman told me she'd been wearing hats constantly for 2 years because she was so self-conscious, and 5 months after starting this coffee and collagen routine, she went to a family wedding without a hat for the first time in years because she finally felt like her hair looked presentable again. The texture was better, the shedding had decreased dramatically, and she had all these new little hairs filling in the thin areas. These stories matter because they remind us that our bodies have an incredible capacity to heal and regenerate when we give them what they need, even after 50, even after menopause, even when doctors have told you there's nothing to be done. But however powerful this combination is, there's one more critical piece that most people completely miss, and this next one is the foundation that everything else builds on. If you get this wrong, nothing else will work as well as it should, and this might actually be the most devastating mistake that's keeping your hair thin right now. This is it. This is the big one. We're at number 1. And what I'm about to tell you is something that affects 40% of women by the time they reach age 50, but hardly anyone talks about it openly, and most women have no idea it's sabotaging their hair growth right now. The number 1 hidden cause of hair loss in women over 50 that nobody's addressing is iron deficiency, and this is absolutely critical because you can do everything else right. You can add collagen to your coffee. You can reduce stress. You can use all the topical treatments in the world, but if your iron levels are low, your hair will continue to thin because your hair follicles literally cannot function without adequate iron. Here's what's happening. Iron is essential for producing hemoglobin, which is the part of your blood that carries oxygen to all your cells, including your hair follicles. Think of iron like the fuel trucks that keep a city running. Without enough fuel, everything starts shutting down, and your hair follicles are particularly sensitive to iron deficiency because they're rapidly dividing cells that need a lot of oxygen and nutrients to function. When your iron levels drop even slightly, your body goes into triage mode. It sends whatever iron you have to your vital organs, your heart, your brain, the systems you need to survive, and your hair follicles get put at the bottom of the priority list. This is why many women with iron deficiency don't feel terribly sick. They might feel a bit more tired than usual, maybe a little foggy mentally. They might notice their nails becoming brittle. But they don't realize how severe the problem is until they notice their hair falling out in concerning amounts. The tragedy is that iron deficiency is incredibly common in women over 50 for several specific reasons. And most of these women have no idea they're deficient because they've never been tested or their doctor told them their levels were technically in the normal range, but didn't mention that they were on the very low end of normal, which still isn't optimal for hair growth. After menopause, many women assume they don't need to worry about iron anymore because they're not losing blood through monthly periods. But what they don't realize is that their ability to absorb iron from food decreases significantly with age. Plus, many women over 50 are eating less red meat for heart health reasons, which eliminates one of the best dietary sources of highly absorbable iron. I've heard heartbreaking stories from women who spent years and hundreds or even thousands of dollars trying expensive hair growth treatments, switching shampoos, taking biotin supplements that did nothing, even considering hair transplants, and then finally someone tested their iron levels and discovered they were severely deficient. One woman in her early 60s told me she'd been losing hair for 3 years. Her ponytail had gone from thick to almost nothing, and she'd seen multiple dermatologists who just told her it was age-related and prescribed expensive topical treatments that didn't work. Finally, a new doctor ran a complete blood panel and discovered her ferritin, which is your stored iron, was dangerously low. And after 6 months of iron supplementation combined with vitamin C to help absorption, her hair started growing back so dramatically that people asked if she'd gotten extensions. That's not an exaggeration. When you correct iron deficiency in someone whose hair loss was primarily caused by that deficiency, the results can be absolutely stunning because you're finally giving those starving hair follicles the oxygen and nutrients they desperately needed all along. But here's the critical part that ties everything together, and this is why the coffee and collagen combination becomes even more powerful when you address iron deficiency at the same time. Vitamin C dramatically improves iron absorption, and if you're drinking coffee which contains caffeine, you need to be strategic about when you take iron because coffee can actually inhibit iron absorption if you take them at exactly the same time. So here's the specific protocol that works best. Have your coffee with collagen peptides mixed in first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. This gives you the circulation boost and provides those amino acid building blocks. Then wait at least 1 hour, ideally 2 hours, before taking an iron supplement if your doctor has determined you need one based on blood tests, and take that iron with a source of vitamin C like a glass of orange juice or a vitamin C supplement to maximize absorption. The reason this timing matters is that you want to get the benefits of the increased blood flow from caffeine delivering collagen peptides to your hair follicles. But you don't want the caffeine interfering with your iron absorption. Many women make the mistake of taking all their supplements at once with their morning coffee without realizing they're actually sabotaging their own efforts. The supplements are competing with each other, and the coffee is blocking absorption of some of them. Getting this timing right can literally be the difference between seeing results or wasting your money on supplements that just pass through your system without being properly absorbed. Now let me give you a simple practical roadmap for implementing this starting tomorrow morning, because I know you're probably feeling a bit overwhelmed with all this information. And I want to make this as easy as possible for you to actually do, instead of just being interesting information you forget about. First thing, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to get your iron levels tested. Specifically, ask your doctor to test your ferritin levels, not just your hemoglobin or hematocrit, because ferritin shows your stored iron, which is what matters for hair growth, and you want your ferritin to be at least 50 to 70 nanograms per milliliter for optimal hair growth, not just technically in the normal range. If your ferritin is low, work with your doctor to supplement appropriately, because taking iron when you don't need it can cause problems, but not taking it when you do need it will sabotage everything else you're trying to do. Second, go buy some high-quality collagen peptides. I recommend marine collagen or grass-fed bovine collagen peptides that dissolve completely in hot liquids, and you want to aim for about 10 to 20 grams per day, which is usually 1 to 2 scoops depending on the brand. Every morning, make your regular coffee however you normally like it, and mix in 1 to 2 scoops of collagen peptides. Stir it until it's completely dissolved. There shouldn't be any clumps or weird texture. Good quality collagen peptides should disappear completely into your coffee. Drink this first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, if possible. This is your hair growth ritual, your moment of self-care. And try to be consistent about the timing, because your body responds best to routine. Third, if you're taking iron supplements, set a reminder on your phone for 2 hours after your coffee time, and take your iron with something that contains vitamin C and away from any calcium-rich foods or supplements, because calcium also blocks iron absorption. If you're not iron deficient, you can skip this step entirely, but for the many women who are deficient without knowing it, this step is absolutely critical. Fourth, be patient and consistent, because this is not a quick fix. Hair grows slowly, about ½ an inch per month at best, and your hair growth cycle means you won't see the effects of what you're doing today for at least 3 to 4 months. This is why so many women give up too soon. They try something for 4 weeks, don't see dramatic results, and quit right before things were about to start improving. I'm telling you right now that if you commit to this routine consistently for 6 months, you will notice changes. Your hair will feel different in texture, stronger and less brittle. You'll notice less hair in your brush and in the shower drain, and you'll start seeing those baby hairs I mentioned. Those little fuzzy new hairs that signal your follicles are waking up and starting to function again. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it addresses multiple causes of hair loss simultaneously. Instead of just trying to treat one factor, you're providing building blocks with collagen, you're improving circulation and blocking DHT with caffeine. You're potentially correcting nutrient deficiency with iron supplementation if needed, and you're creating a sustainable routine that supports not just your hair, but your overall health, including your skin, joints, and energy levels. This isn't about trying to be 20 years old again. That's not realistic. And honestly, it's not the goal. This is about being the healthiest, most confident version of yourself at the age you are right now, about looking in the mirror and recognizing the woman you know yourself to be. I want you to understand something really important. You don't have to just accept hair loss as an inevitable part of aging. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on treatments that might not work. And you definitely don't deserve to feel invisible or less valuable or less attractive because your hair has thinned. You deserve to feel confident at every age. You deserve to walk into a room without thinking about whether people are noticing your scalp. And you deserve to have your best years still ahead of you regardless of what your hair has been doing lately. Start with your morning coffee and a scoop of collagen tomorrow. Get your iron levels tested this week and commit to 6 months of consistency before you judge whether this is working. Track your progress with photos because change happens so gradually you might not notice it day to day. But when you compare photos from month 1 to month 6, the difference can be stunning. Share this information with women in your life who might be struggling with the same thing, because nobody should have to suffer in silence thinking they're the only one dealing with this, when 40% of women over 50 are experiencing some degree of hair loss. If you found this valuable, hit that like button so other women can find this information. Drop a comment telling me your age and where you're watching from. Share this video with friends who need to hear this. And subscribe to this channel because I'm committed to bringing you practical, science-based information that actually helps you look and feel you're better at every age. Remember, your hair loss isn't a character flaw or something to be ashamed of. It's a solvable problem that responds to the right approach. And you've just learned exactly what that approach is. You've got this, and I'll see you in the next video.